But to start off with today, we're going to talk to you about, just when we thought that Hamilton was the highest tax city in the country, a new study suggesting that new taxes such as road tolls and gas levies and perhaps taxes on parking spots could be put in place. Now, this is all the result of a study that was done and should be released to the Transport Minister shortly. Harry Kitchen is a professor of economics at Trent University, and he wrote the report. And Andy Manahan is the executive director of Residential and Civic Construction Alliance of Ontario, who commissioned the study. And we welcome both gentlemen to CHML. First of all, welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Tell me a little bit about the genesis of this study. I mean, clearly, I'm assuming that this is simply based on the fact that as we move forward, municipalities, of course, don't have money for road infrastructure, and at the same time, don't seem to have enough money for public transit. So, is this really just an idea of, well, let's go to the users, the people that are actually using the system, and try to get the money from them?
Yeah, that's the main purpose of this. Our Construction Association is obviously interested in infrastructure improvements, but Harry Kitchen, who did the report for us, believes that in terms of municipal taxes, a user pay system is a more prudent one. Now, certainly we do have both provincial and federal gas tax programs, but in terms of accountability, it's better to have a municipal-based system. And with the new Metrolinx, this is the former Greater Toronto Transportation Authority, they're going to be charged in the future with making decisions on transportation priorities. So the group that's going to be making the spending decisions should have that role.
Professor, talk to me a little bit about exactly where you see these sorts of tolls being put in place. I mean, we had heard that it may be the 400 series highways. It's pretty much touching on most of the Greater Golden Horseshoe, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I think the initial point to start would be on the 400 series highways, the Lincoln-Alexander Parkway, the Red Hill Creek Parkway, and they could be expanded to other roads. I mean, it's not totally restricted to it would be whatever the decision makers thought would be appropriate. The toll charges are one of the options that are suggested in the report. They've proven to be fairly effective, and I think quite frankly very effective in controlling traffic congestion in a number of cities where they've been used around the world. They're, of course, not without their political opponents when it comes to introducing them. But that's one option that's addressed in the report. Another is to have a dedicated municipal fuel tax. Now, all of these charges are predicated on having a governing structure that actually sets the charge or the levy or the tax, whatever it may be, and collects the revenue and uses it for the projects that are in the transportation and public transit area.
Some of the critics, Professor, would suggest that this may be a little premature because, well, we don't have the public transit infrastructure in place that other municipalities and other jurisdictions that have already gone this far have done. London comes to mind as a comparator, obviously. London, England, that is.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For congestion charges, that would be true. It's also the case that in the report I do address that issue, and it's very conceivable that you would have to have a fairly strong public transit system put in place prior to introducing this. I mean, congestion charges are not something that are going to come overnight or going to come in a year or two. They are something that would have to be addressed and discussed, and it would take a few years to get them implemented. I mean, just simply putting up the infrastructure for them would take a while.
Certainly would. Would this, according to the report, would this fall under the purview of the provincial government, or obviously a Metrolinx, which is the body that's looking after transportation infrastructure and the study right now? Are they proposed to be the governing body here?
Well, that's an option that's addressed in the report. I do address some governance options in the report. It seems to me the most practical one, given the political circumstances now, would be to give Metrolinx powers. It currently has powers for prioritizing transportation and transit across the GTA, but it actually has really no serious decision-making power. And the report does call for giving it or a body like it significant power. I mean, the premise on two things. First of all, that users of services should pay for them where you can identify the users, and here you can. The second thing is that the governing structure that raises the revenue, the local body that raises the revenue, should be the one making any decisions. And you and I have the opportunity to vote for these people or to throw them out of office if we don't like what they're doing.
Let me
I can just jump in here.
Go ahead, Andy.
a point with respect to the options and choice, and the province of Ontario did announce last summer the Move Ontario 2020, which has about 52 projects in the Greater Toronto Area, Hamilton, and certainly Metrolinx is going to be taking a look at the priorities, and they do want to have some quick wins, they're calling them, so they want to get off the ground with some greater transportation choices in the near future.
Yeah, and obviously those could be applied to this report, I guess. In other words, that would actually go from the philosophical bent down to the practical bent to say, here's how you can actually do this. Let me ask both of you a quick question on this, because when these ideas of toll roads have been brought up before, one of the concerns and one of the pushbacks is, well, you're going to drive people onto secondary roads. In other words, they're going to avoid them, but they're still going to drive their cars, which really kind of defeats the whole purpose here, doesn't it? I'll ask Professor, if you could answer that, and then Andy, I'll ask you to jump in on it too.
Sure. I mean, that's always the argument in opposition to them, and there's no question that it may drive a few people, but through careful planning, I mean, if you put all major arteries on a congestion or a toll system, and you have stop signs on other streets, I don't think there are going to be too many people avoiding them. I mean, this has happened. This is the old argument. Every time you introduce a user fee, people try to avoid it. Initially, that's exactly what happens in a lot of things. It doesn't matter whether it's for garbage or whether it's for roads. But that avoidance is very short term. Before very long, people think, it's not worth it. I'm not going to do that. I can't stand taking that long.
Andy, can you see people in Ontario being compliant with this?
Well, you could use new technology. London, England, for example, is talking about video monitoring within their congestion zone area. But the other thing I wanted to add is that the reason we're looking at applying this across the whole region is that we still want Toronto as a downtown center to be economically viable. So if you just have toll roads on the DVP and the Gardiner, then obviously businesses and the population in general will look to move to the 905. So you need to apply these road charges across all the 905, 400 series highways and some other ones.
So you don't want to go in half measures. This is all or nothing at all then?
It's across the whole region.
What are the next steps here, gentlemen? The report's been released. I understand you're meeting with the Transport Minister later this week?
Yeah, we have a meeting with both Minister Bradley, Transportation, and Minister Kaplan, Public Infrastructure Renewal, on Wednesday, and we're going to talk to him specifically about the recommendations in our report.
Any ideas as to which way they're leaning on this? I mean, is there a general acceptance of the theory anyway?
I think the government is recognizing that public opinion is at least starting to move on this, that people recognize there has to be a link. So this is the user pay philosophy, and certainly we've seen in the 407 that the public is paying the tolls, and there's been no diminishment in the number of users on that toll highway.
Seems to be that way. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the time today. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Professor Harry Kitchen, Professor of Economics at Trent University, who wrote the report. Andy Manahan is the Executive Director, Residential and Civil Construction Alliance of Ontario, who commissioned the study.